was supposed to be in this meeting. Unfortunately, something came up this morning and he couldn't attend. So in his place, we were able to get Dr. Mujahid to take us through these sessions. Thank you for coming, for attending, and kindly give me a few minutes as I get a hold of one of the panelists. That is Dr. Mujahid. Thank you. I'm also kindly requesting for us to mute our mics so that we do not interfere with the sessions. Thank you.
Then you will have the media.
I would like to take this opportunity to welcome our panelists. I would like to take this opportunity and welcome our panelists to introduce themselves. As we all know, the topic of discussion is religious tolerance as we head to the 2022 elections. Madam Hema Shah, kindly take this opportunity and introduce yourself, please.
Then you see how we are going to So that is just an outline of what we are going
Shah has dropped out. Reverend Richard Otieno, kindly introduce yourself.
Hello.
Reverend
Hello,
Richard Otieno, I hope
yes,
you can hear me now.
Yes, I can. Can you hear me? Right. My name is Reverend Canon Richard Otieno. I'm here to represent the National Council of Churches of Kenya.
Reverend Richard Otieno?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
He says that he can't hear us. Yes?
Can you hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, my name is Reverend Canon Richard Otieno. I'm here to represent the National Council of Churches of Kenya, the General Secretary. I am the County Secretary, NCCK, Mombasa County, and therefore I'm glad to be on the platform. And thank you for reaching out to us to be part of the speakers in this conference. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Reverend. May I take this opportunity to welcome Madam Hema Shah to introduce herself. Madam Emma Shah. Okay, as we wait for her to introduce herself, I would like to take this opportunity to invite Majesty King Mwachiro, the Kaya Elder representative, to introduce himself. King Mwachiro, kindly unmute yourself. Majesty King Mwachiro, kindly introduce. His Majesty King Mwachiro, kindly introduce yourself, please.
Do you hear me?
His Majesty King Mwachiro, yes, yes, you can hear.
Okay, my name is Vincent Mwachiro. I'm the Royal Majesty of the Mijikenda community, and I'm also the coordinator of the National Council of Elders of Kenya.
Thank you so much, and welcome to the webinar. I'm kindly requesting Dr. Mujahid to please introduce himself.
Hello, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, this is Hemasha from Hindu Council, and I am current chair lady of my community, and I'm working with CICC here in Mombasa. Thank you.
Welcome.
Unasikia?
Sticky.
Usikii kitu? Ngoja. Nataka pale kwa microphone. Unasikia? Unasikia?
That is
Unasikia?
national anthem is a prayer. Amen, amen, amen. Thank you so much, Mesa, for the opportunity, and I hope that we will have a very interactive session. Thank you, and I think we can begin the session.
Thank you so much, Rosette. I'm kindly requesting that we give Reverend Otieno this opportunity to take us through the topic of discussion, which is the religious tolerance in the run-up to the 2022 elections. Anyone or all the participants that will kindly have questions, please do raise them in the chat box. Once we are done with the discussion, we will raise your questions for them to appropriately be answered. Thank you. Reverend Richard.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope that you can hear me. And I want
yes,
to
we can hear you.
Okay, fine. Thank you very much. I want to thank every panelist here present, and I want to thank Haki Africa for this very noble thought that we needed to have some dialogue forum, considering that we are headed towards 2022 general elections. And therefore, this forum is quite timely so that we can be able to find grounds on which we can be able to make sure we communicate and Kenyans continue to be helped to understand that there is need for us to live in harmony. So the topic is about religious tolerance in the run-up to 2022 general election. Allow me just to be able to help us understand from my point of view the meaning of that word religious tolerance. So when we're talking about religious tolerance, it basically refers to the ability to appreciate spiritual values, ability to appreciate belief systems, ability to appreciate practices which are different from your very own. And therefore that in itself defines what religious tolerance is all about. I can also put it this way, that when we are talking about religious tolerance, it is imperative that we understand that it is a very, very complex issue, considering that we have a great diversity of religious and spiritual beliefs existing across the globe. And this, I want to believe that fellow panelists will agree with me. Now, we are talking about religious tolerance in the run-up to 2022 general election. I want to begin my discussion from this point of view, that in the run-up to 2022 elections, we must be tolerant with one another. You'll agree with me that our Kenyan constitution and other laws and the policies prohibit religious discrimination. And it talks about protection of religious freedoms, including the freedom to practice any form of religion, the freedom to practice any form of a belief system through worship, through teaching or observance, and to debate religious questions without being interfered with. And therefore, these things are actually enshrined in our Kenyan constitution. But many a time, Kenya has exhibited religious intolerance, despite the very fact that we have laws that safeguard freedom of religious expression. And this is a matter that we need to discuss on a serious platform. So religious intolerance normally is characterized by malicious acts and violence, which we have seen in Kenya as a cycle of violence in every time we have elections. So we can see that when we have malicious acts and violence, which is normally motivated by religious hatred and biases, that in itself would become a recipe for long-term tensions and conflict, which we have experienced in this country. It is only prudent that we as religious leaders, as interfaith institutions, that we must be able to create a platform of engaging and to sensitize our people that there is need for us to embrace tolerance. I would want to say at this juncture that past cases of destruction in this country, burning and looting of churches and property during elections, are issues of concern, not only to the religious institutions, but it must be a concern for all stakeholders in this country, for all state and non-state actors in this country. Because we have seen the damage that this kind of heinous acts have caused in the lives of Kenyans. So these malicious acts are witnessed across the country. And you know that there are some counties in this country that are well known as hotspots of violence. And the same counties have a cycle of violence during and after every election period. Just to mention a few, like in western part of Kenya, we're talking about the Rift Valley, we're talking about the coast, and more particularly in Mombasa. And therefore, this platform for me, this forum, is a good forum, because then it is posing a challenge to us as interfaith communities that our leaders should work closely with the government by making a deliberate effort to promote peace within the affected regions in this country. We have a good platform in which we can preach tolerance among our followers. If we can grab opportunities every time when we have services or we have religious gatherings, and to use such platforms to preach tolerance to our people, that would serve good. We must endeavor to be peace ambassadors, we ourselves, by preaching religious tolerance and not intolerance, as it has been experienced in other parts of the country. Allow me at this point in time, as I drive this conversation further, to quote the words of Pope Francis when he visited Kenya in the year 2015, he said these words: the God whom we seek to serve is a God of peace. His From the words of Pope Francis, the implication of Pope Francis' statement was that as Kenyans, we must learn to respect all religions. And this should always remind us that we serve a God of peace. In fact, for us as Christians, we use the word Jehovah Shalom, the God of peace. So Kenyans should be helped to understand that irrespective of your religious affiliation, that we serve a God of peace. And therefore it is important that we ourselves must be able to preach peace across this country. So it's a challenge to us as religious leaders that we must purpose to preach the gospel of peace across the country. Political aspirations are not bad. And I know as we are moving towards the general elections in 2022, there are many people who are, have expressed their desire to vie for elective posts in this country. And we want to encourage them. Political aspirations are not bad, but we must condemn in the strongest term possible any form of political rhetorics that promote intolerance in this country. Political rhetorics that will promote division among religious institutions. So religious intolerance is one thing that we need to discourage in this country. We must encourage interreligious understanding, and this must be done by our religious leaders. We have been given this opportunity to lead, and therefore it is important that we must encourage interreligious understanding. We must encourage friendship. We must encourage collaboration in defending the dignity of individuals and peoples and their right to live in freedom and happiness. The challenge has been that most of the leaders that we have today have been compromised, where we have some of the religious leaders who have taken sides, right, supporting certain political ideologies. And when you do so, what happens is that you're causing division amongst your followers. It is therefore important that in as much as we may have certain political affiliations, as religious leaders, we must make sure that we get to a point of understanding that we have been called to be the ambassadors of peace, to be agents of peace. Therefore, we must find grounds of making sure that our followers hold up together. But when we begin to display or indicate that we have certain political affiliations, then what happens that we are going to create a platform where we will have our followers actually divided amongst themselves. And these are some of the things that will spark violence. It is therefore important that as religious leaders, we must be able to preach friendship. We must be able to talk about collaboration approaches to making sure that we are able to bring our followers together to the point that we are going to encourage religious tolerance. And I want to conclude by saying that we ourselves as religious leaders must learn to respect our neighbors' religion. We have seen a number of times situations where we have no regard for other religions. When we get a platform, be it in the pulpit, when we begin, to attack the other religions, then what is going to happen is we are going even to widen, we're going to widen, that board of division, because then we notice seeking a platform of bringing people together. So it is imperative at this time that as religious leaders, we learn to respect our neighbors' religions, as they play a very pivotal role in forming consciences of people and also instilling, in the youth, the profound values or spiritual values that they need to embrace. You see, we're being told in this Kenyan population, a bigger percentage of it is actually a youthful, constituency. So if we as spiritual leaders are not going to be preaching tolerance, if we ourselves are going to be attacking each other and speaking against, each other's or one another's religion, then we are going to be instilling in the hearts of these young people, negative values that will eventually lead them to engage in such malicious acts. Because what we'll be telling them that when you attack your friend, when you attack your neighbor, then there is nothing bad with that. So it is important that we must be very careful that whenever we are given a platform to preach, ours should be to preach peace, ours should be to preach ways in which we can be able to develop collaborative approaches of bringing people together. And that is what really matters at this point in time. So even as we move towards the 2022 general elections, it is important that religious leaders must understand that we have a pivotal role to play, that we must become the voice that will condemn any act that will lead Kenyans to be divided. We must be able to condemn with the strongest term possible political aspirants that will be able to do what? To divide our youth, that will be able to spur violence in this country. And this can only happen, we can only be able to avert this if we ourselves as interfaith bodies, as non-state actors, that we will be glued together. And therefore, that is why it is imperative again that we find those collaborative ways in which we can work together, put our differences aside, put away our different beliefs aside, but then seek to find common grounds on which we can be able to advocate and advance and champion for peace in this country. And that to me, it's very, very important because we have seen in this country that there's been a cycle of violence, during and after elections every year. So this is the time that we must begin. We mustn't wait until after there is damage that has been caused. Then we begin to talk about, bringing Kenyans together. It must begin now. We have the platform, and that's why I also want to hail Haki Africa for this noble thought that we needed to have this dialogue forum so that we can be able to find a way in which we can push the agenda of peace building in this country and to encourage tolerance among ourselves. So as I conclude, I want to say that we must make intentional efforts to treat each other as brothers and sisters, irrespective of our religious beliefs. Anything contrary to this will only pave way for intolerance in this country, which will lead to loss of property and loss of lives. And therefore, to us who are interfaith bodies, we have a big role to play during the forthcoming general election, and that is to be ambassadors of peace and making sure that we bring Kenyans together. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and may the good Lord bless you, and may the good Lord bless Kenya. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Reverend Richard Otieno. That was an awesome presentation. I think you've covered much of what we anticipated, and we continue to anticipate more from the other panelists. And you have highlighted a lot of issues that I think that we need to ensure that we work on as we head to the 2022 election. I'm kindly requesting our next panelist, Hema Shah, to take us through her presentation and let us know what she feels or how she feels we can work through or work towards religious tolerance. Thank you.
Good morning again, everyone.
Good morning.
Okay. I also have a few points about the same religion, like we have to stay together. Actually, the religion must teach us that we have to stay together on the planet, and we have to help each other grow as a human being, So according to the Hindu religion, the very important part of religion is a spiritual development and development as a human. And it doesn't start after a certain age. It starts pretty from very young age, you know. So we are proactive about a human or anybody who is born in the family or community or whatever. So we, you know, it's not about giving children after a certain age. You have to train them since they are born. It's from family. They understand that killing an insect is also a sin, you know. So from that very young age, they understand that it is not nice to be rude or to be like to be violent to anybody. That's a part of our ethics. One of the ethics from it is called ahimsa. It's like non-violence. It's one of the ethics in our religion. Then, and we basically we support human development. We are born as a human. Doesn't mean we have to fight and we have to kill each other and we have to do all nonsense. You know, right now, the world is tired of being corrupt. The world is tired of being thinking about your own self, you know, like too much selfishness is there. Well, you can be selfish at a point to grow up on your own, and then you have to, you know, spread your good values to others also. That is how Hindu religion works. Then there is we even teach what is the difference between greed and growth. As a humans, we have to teach in the religious norms at what we have, you know, like even on the Sunday mass or whatever, on Friday prayers, or whenever the kayas are meeting, they have to have this community mottos, you know, like the way we have. Like you don't have to compete with anyone else in the world, or you don't have to be greedy for something. You have to grow on your own, isn't it? And that leads you to a better human being. And that doesn't make you, you know, like you don't have to fight for the food. You know, that is the thing which is happening in the elections. They are thrown money, they are being captured, you know, then there is this abuse of drugs also. Even in Mombasa, you know, last month in Mombasa, when this Israel and Palestine were fighting, here our children also started fighting in certain areas that how come they are behaving like this? And there was like, there is no base, but they are still acting in certain manner. So, you know, we have to make their heads clear that we are here to live together, to grow up as a human being, and say we have to live in the same planet with different ideologies, different viewpoints. Yeah. And so the religious leaders and religious places can teach us honesty, moral values, and intelligence. You know, they can input in a child. So when they are grown up, they can't be used for something like this, you know, like they are used in elections, you know, because more of the time they get carried away with certain ideology, or mostly it's with money. It's not even ideology. I don't think there is any ideology working in fighting. There is mostly, if they don't have sponsors, you won't see any fight there. Let's be very clear in our head. So as a religious leader, when we are talking, we have to be, you know, careful that nobody buys us also to say certain things. Are we together? Are we together? Yeah. So
Yes, we are.
Yes, yes, yes.
okay. So when we ourselves will carry peace, I think it will be very easy for us to, you know, spread peace all over. Thank you very much. That's what I wanted to say. And we have to make our children understand what's going on. So that is it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Hema Shah. That was a very well put presentation and very well elaborate. Kindly requesting our other panelist who has just joined us, Mr. Othman Mujahid, Dr. Othman Mujahid, to kindly introduce himself before we move to the next panelist, please. Dr. Mujahid. Okay, as we wait for him to join us, I'm kindly requesting, yes?
Hello.
Yes, Dr. Mujahid.
My name is Othman Mujahid. Are you with me? Hello.
Yeah, we are together.
You're together? Yes, thank you very much. My name is Othman Mujahid. Formerly, I was a lecturer at Pune University, but I'm now an independent consultant on education and development.
Thank you, Dr. Mujahid. Now, back to the discussion. I'm kindly requesting His Majesty King Mwachiro to please take this opportunity and present to us what he's prepared on religious tolerance as the run up to the 2022 elections.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, His Majesty.
Okay. Actually taking you back from where we started. This Kenya was got independence and was under Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. There was no fighting. We had Moi, there was no really fighting. But you know, even Mzee Kibaki came, there was a bit of a problem in the time that people fought, the whole of Kenya fought. But this is because our youth believe on politicians and they follow politicians like they follow God. So it is up to what Mr. Otieno has said. It is up to the religious leaders to be very, very united. The Muslim, the Hindu, the Christian, the communities. You know, everybody does, we have enduring checks, all these to unite our people and to educate our youth. Because it is actually the youth who have been used and paid to destroy others. In Mombasa here, we have been having so many groups which were formed and they were being supported by politicians. We should not run away from this. So basically, if we want to take this country far, then we as elders and the religious leaders must unite with all the community leaders to chart a way to correct and educate our youth, not to follow and not to be used by politicians, but to follow the rule of God. And this because I've been going around Africa, you can never see Tanzanians fighting because of election. And this is being brought because of poverty. Our youth are being used because most of them are eating drugs, taking drugs. And this has not been stopped. Drugs are still coming in. Our youth are being used by politicians mostly, not religious leaders, not elders, but the politicians. And this is why I'm saying the religious leaders, their unity, and if they unite with the cultural leaders of this country to remove tribalism and to remove, to educate this youth to understand that there's life after everything. Because mostly we live for four years in peace. But when elections come, we disrupt our country without good reasons. So actually, I believe if we can follow this idea of uniting our religious leaders, going down to the communities to educate our youth, calling meetings of specifically youth, because women are not fighting. Women are well presented in this country, and I believe they are very good people. But our youth are the only ones who are disrupting our peace in this country because of the poverty that they are in. And this is why I heard the Reverend speaking so well about unit of the religious leaders, but I also urge them to involve the community leaders. We have a unity of cultural leaders all over Kenya. I said I'm the coordinator of National Council of Elders in Kenya. So there's a way that we can use our elders to educate their youth in their regions, and the religious leaders should take the mantle because they are actual spiritual. Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. But just to throw a spanner in the works, you've talked so much about us improving or working together with the youth to ensure that they are no longer used by the politicians. But in recent times, or many of the times that we've seen, like what Canon Reverend Otieno has said, we have seen several times politicians using the pulpit, using the pulpit as a tool for them to get votes. And we've seen religious leaders taking sides. We've also seen some of the same community elders that we are supposed to be assisting the same youth that are being used to coming together or taking sides with the politicians and inciting people against other people. So what is it that these community leaders or the religious leaders can do to ensure that this does not happen come 2022? Apart from the youth being used, even religious leaders have been used. What is it that we can do to ensure that this does not happen ever again? I think any of the panelists can take that. I'll request Dr. Mujahid to take it up as he's the one coming in next. Please welcome Dr. Mujahid.
Very much. Thank you very much. Are you with me? Can everybody hear me? Hello?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you, Dr. Mujahid.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I'm glad to join you this morning on this very important platform to discuss a very live issue that is affecting all of us, and something that is really crucial when it comes to our well-being for different reasons. I want to begin by saying it's very important for us to give a thorough thought on what we want to say, how we want to say it, and to who we want to say what we want to say. And it is also very important to understand that if we are to actually stop our young people or stop people from getting intolerant and ultimately cause violence, not only during election, but any other time, it's key first. We create a very powerful network of proper advocacy so that all the leaders, opinion leaders, political leaders, religious leaders, economic leaders, all those leaders will understand, unless we are able to cultivate the culture of peace in this nation, nothing positive will happen, because things don't really happen until we make them happen. So if we have a network of good policies, do thorough advocacy so that everybody is conscious, is aware of how important peace is to a nation, I think that will do a lot of good. Number two, it's also very important for us to create more awareness through sensitization, so that people can be able to visualize and finally actualize the beauty of peace and the pain of war. The moment people can establish and differentiate what really peace brings to the society and what really war, causes to a society, I am sure people will be more conscious when they are doing whatever they're doing. Number three, it is important for us to do a lot of capacity building, even among the youth themselves, the women, and the religious leaders, so that they can be able, as they spread the gospel of peace and tolerance, as we prepare to go to election in 2022, we go in a more acceptable way. Because we could have the information, we could have the knowledge, but if we are not able to communicate the way it's supposed to be communicated, if we don't do what we are actually supposed to do, that capacity, if it's not there, even the religious leaders on the pulpit or any other person on any platform will not be able to do a very good job. It is also important for us to think of service delivery. Najua Waswahili wanasema gangashina la uhai tanzuze hazigangiki. If these young people have become vulnerable and they are easily bought and they are easily misused and abused, what is it that is really causing them to become so cheap like that, to do distraction for just 100 or 200 bob or even 50 bob, you know, so that we can be able to do a lot of service delivery to empower them to negotiate and to be able to say no to any form of violence. And then it's very important for us, after we do an activity like this, to do a kind of a follow-up to see the impact an activity like this is creating in the society, so that we don't leave it hanging. We have to see it up to the end, and the end will be, there should be transformation and change in behavior, particularly among our young people, who everybody is saying they are the reason why sometimes we have a reflection. We have some kind of intolerance. Again, it is very important for us to know that these young people are sometimes looking up to us as role models. So if we are not good role models as religious leaders, if we're not good role models as other leaders, these young people definitely don't get that picture of feeling like they need to get composed and ensure there is no violence in our society. Ladies and gentlemen, to me, I am saying religious tolerance is key, and it can only happen if we give ourselves more time to reflect together as religious leaders, as a community, as a nation, on what is it that is so important, what is it that is not important, and what is it that we can do to stop all this mess that sometimes we find ourselves in. And this can be done through engagement and also observation of limitation. Limitation in the language that we use, limitation in the actions that we show other people, and particularly those who are younger than us, limitations in terms of inciting, other people to fight another person. It's also important for us to give each other the kind of love that is required so that the society can live in harmony. We also need to take cognizance on other people's interests so that we don't get somehow self-centered, egocentric, and only think of our own interests. We need to be open-minded and understand that for us to get what we want, sometimes we have to give up what we have. And sometimes you have to give up that which you love so much to get that which you want so badly. At the same time, it's important for us to be thoughtful, because to me, everything begins with the thinking. Everything begins with the mind. If your mind is pure, if your mind has clarity, everything else becomes pure and everything becomes clear to you. And that is why this is anonymous. It is said, be careful what you think, because what you think affects the way you feel. Be careful of the way you feel. The way you feel affects how you act. Be careful of your actions, because your actions will definitely lead you to your destiny. So if we can think of each other as brothers and sisters, if we can think of each other as good citizens of this nation, if we can think of each other first as human beings and later as the tribe you belong to and later as a religion you belong to, but then starting from where the commonality is, and that is we are all human beings, and that is really enough to make us appreciate each other. At the same time, it is also important for us to use appropriate opportunities to kind of educate other people on how important peace is to our national growth and development, how important peace is even for our own existence, to our own prosperity, and that becomes really key, because that opportunity, if it is lost, we might not be able to find it again. So every moment is a moment for someone to ensure that we are all living peacefully together as human beings, together as people of different faiths, together as people of different tribes. We also need to learn from each other, because it is difficult to live peacefully with one another if we don't really know how each and every one of us really, is made up of, is practicing what they are practicing, so that we can be able to establish that what you call treasure of knowledge of knowing who is a Christian and who is a Muslim, who is a Hindu, who is a Kikuyu, who is, and such kind of thing. At the end of the day, who is a Mijikenda, who is an Arab, so that we can be able to, okay, this is how these people are, and therefore we need to appreciate and accept them the way they are. Because if God wanted us to be of the same tribe, if God wanted us to be of the same religion, if God wanted us to be of the same color, believe me, that will not be very difficult for God. But the reason why he created this diversity is to make us see his mightiness. He is mightiness, because that by itself shows you that there is God, because all these languages that are being spoken all over the world, all fiction that really, force power cannot do what we are seeing in the social kind of segmentation of our society. So let's learn from each other, and then encourage one another on love, peace, and unity. Because always, if we open our hearts and appreciate other people who are different from us, it will be easy for us to live together. And the strength of humanity does not come because you love yourself too much, does not come because you know yourself too much, does not come because you serve a lot, you do a lot of hard work on you. The beauty of humanity is when you are serving others, is when you are appreciating others, is when you are doing good to others, because everything you do with yourself will go with you. What will be left behind are those things that we do to the other people. It's also very important for us to make sure we take advantage of relational capital. And relational capital means we use more of emotional intelligence than intelligence quotient. We use more of the heart than the brain. I want to say this in a very light touch. When you're dealing with yourself, then you can engage your mind and you think about what you should do. But when you're dealing with somebody else, it's good to use the feelings. How do you feel about that person? How do you accommodate that person into your own, emotional boundaries? How do you appreciate that person? How do you really love that person, and such kind of thing? And that's really important, that the use of emotional intelligence, so that we can build up those social networks that will make us live together in peace and harmony. At the same time, it is also important, as I said, to learn how to negotiate, because differences will always be there. There are no two people that are 100% similar. Even the identical twins have some minor differences here and there. And therefore, the differences should kind of motivate us to wanting to expand our thinking, expand our feelings, and then do more to help others than we do ourselves. In that way, if we can negotiate with your own self to appreciate who you truly are, then if you appreciate who you are, it becomes easy to appreciate the other person. When you see people fighting other people, it's because they have not appreciated themselves. But if you really appreciate yourself, you will never want anything bad to happen to you. If you really appreciate yourself, you will never want to destroy yourself. If you appreciate yourself, you will never want to live in an environment of violence. So if you appreciate yourself, it becomes easier to appreciate other people. So let's learn to appreciate ourselves, and then come to communicate openly and communicate positively, so that we can be able to talk, to discuss, to negotiate. Dialogue, a golden principle of life is for people to sit down together and engage in a positive, constructive, productive dialogue. And this will now empower all of us and live as a very strong society. We have to enlarge our own minds, enlarge our own hearts, and enlarge our own spaces so that we can be always ready to welcome and accept other people who are different from us. This is not a new phenomenon. Even on your small hand, those fingers you have are absolutely all of them very different. And therefore, if there is a difference in our own structures and our own physical being, you should take differences as a kind of a blessing from the Almighty God that is educating us to learn and live together. And that is very, very important. I always tell people, if you are that person who has embraced the 4 L's of life, that is to say, you are always enjoying your life, therefore, if you life, that is very, very more about yourself, then learn about other people, more of other people, so that you can see how you relate with each other. Believe me, I am a student of comparative religion. For example, there is very, very, very minor differences between the major religions practiced in the world. Only that sometimes we are reluctant in studying the other religion, and this narrative of the others is what is killing us. There's no others. We are all brothers and sisters. Okay, in Islam we say inna halaknakum min dhakari wal untha waj'alnakum shu'uban wa qaba'ila lita'arafu in akramakum indallahi atqakum. In Islam we say, God said in the Quran, we created you in different tribes and different nations so that you might be able to understand each other, so that you might be able to live with one another. But the most superior among you is the one who is closest to his creator, not the one who is a Christian, not the one who is a Muslim, not the one who is a Hindu, not the one who is lighter than the other, not the one who is taller than the other, but it is the one who is most closest to our creator. So there is no supremacy in humanity in terms of religious inclination. There is no supremacy in humanity in terms of tribal orientation. There is supremacy in humanity in terms of the fear of your creator. If you have that fear, then you are superior than those who don't fear their creator because they don't appreciate their source. It's very important, my dear brothers and sisters in humanity, for us to avoid, first to embrace 5 C's of avoiding violence, particularly as we approach 2022, as we approach our general election. And these 5 C's we need to embrace is we need to communicate more through different platforms, through webinars, through seminars and conferences, through write-ups, through online platforms and social media, so that we can communicate the message and the beautiful message and the positive message, because faith is built through hearing and hearing and hearing. Repetition always ultimately makes you an expert. So when peace is repeated every day, the messages of peace are repeated every day, ultimately everybody becomes an expert of peace, and it becomes easy to practice what you have faith on. I'm repeating, faith is only through hearing and communicating through sources, so that people can be empowered, you know. Empowered, so they don't want kind of harm to anybody else. And that is really, really key. Again, we need to be because agency. We need to find different ways, particularly as my sister from the Hindu faith said, creative on how we can impart the values of peace to our young children. Creative in terms of how we will build positive behavior in our adolescents. Creative in the sense of that how do we and a better living together. Again, we need to collaboration. They say teamwork makes dream energy. And therefore, thank God we have so many now of where people today that are teaching comparison is actualization. Again, we have to be somehow critical and introduce this life skill even to the young people so that they can become critical thinkers. Wasiwe bendera wakafuata upepo. At the same time, whatever we do, always we must do consistently. So these are the 5 C's we need to embrace. Consistency, njia inayopitiwa kila siku haimei nyasi. Islam has a very interesting quotation that it says, "Qul ya ayyuhal kafiruna la a'budu ma ta'budun wa la antum a'biduna ma a'budu lakum dinukum waliya din." That is, I mean, you should not worry so much because somebody is not believing in what you believe. You have your religion and allow them to have their religion. Again, in the Islamic Quranic text, it says, La ikraha fi din, there is no compulsion in religion. So religious tolerance is embedded in the Sharia of Islamic jurisprudence. And therefore, as Muslims, we need to adapt that so that the other people of other faiths can also can be accommodated. The Prophet ﷺ was advised to take care of his neighbor to an extent he thought now he will be asked or he will be instructed that the neighbor can inherit a neighbor. And the neighbor here is not necessarily a Muslim neighbor. A neighbor here is any neighbor, whether a Hindu, a Jew, or a Christian, as long as he is or she is your neighbor. Now, we also have to avoid 5 C's. To me, I call these 5 C's as poison to peaceful coexistence. These are social metastasizing cancer. What are these C's? These C's are C's of complaining and doing nothing. We keep on complaining about each other. At the end, we end up becoming very bitter about one another, and we don't really, instead of love, we ingrain hatred in our hearts. C number 2, we need to stop criticizing each other. Sometimes we have to tell each other bitter truth. And this bitter truth need to be said with wisdom and hikmah and beautiful preaching. And this is what Quran says. Ta'alu, Ya ahlul kitab, ta'alu min kalimati sawa bainana wa bainakum. Oh, you people of the books, come we start where we all begin, where there is commonality between us. And the people of the books are the Jews and the Christians. And what is common between us is we both, all of us believe in one God. None of us believe in anything else. So let's begin there. And then, even if you want to invite another person into your religion, call them with a lot of wisdom and beautiful preaching, not with violence. No, not at all. Therefore, it's very important for us to preach what they call alternative narratives that build us together, bring us together, narratives that makes us love each other, not narratives that keeps us apart. So we need to stop criticizing. Christians should stop criticizing Muslims when they are in the church, and the Muslims need to stop criticizing Christians when they're in the mosque and the Hindus in the temple. We need to walk our talk. Sometimes in public, we tell each other very beautiful things, very nice things. But when we are in private, believe me, we say nasty things about each other. And unless we stop that, it will be very difficult, because that by definition is hypocrisy. And we need to stop that hypocrisy and accept each other the way we are and tell each other the bitter truth, so that at the end of the day, we know this is how a Christian is and this is how a Muslim is. And we have to live the way we are because we are people of different faiths, but at the same time, we all worship the same Creator. Again, we need to stop condemning one another and stop compromising and contradicting our own self. Remember, I want to conclude by saying that religion has an essence, and the essence of religion is first, is a tool we need to use to reflect, to think, to kind of motivate us to think positively that this world, this life we're living is temporary. There is life that is going to be an eternal life. And that life is more important than this life. And none of us has a license to live in this life forever. So as you treat others, treat them with love, because it is that which you do unto others that you will take with you to your next life. Whatever you do to yourself, you live it in this life. So as religious leaders, if we keep on reflecting on that and reasoning together with young people, women, and other people, we will always have peace in our society. Religion, letter E in the word religion says it is a source of empowerment and spiritual nourishment. It is that power that builds our inside, because it is the inside that controls the outside. If your mind is well educated on religious issues and your heart is well stabilized with the fear of the Lord, your hand will never go up to slap anybody. Your hand will never go up to shoot anybody. Your hand will never go up to slash anybody, because your inside is pure. Your outside becomes pure. So let us kind of empower our minds and empower our hearts. Let us build our IQ, and the EQ and the PQ, the physical quotient, will become very, very much controlled. Again, let us always try to learn and love one another, because it is through learning, because ultimately learning leads to a relative change in our behavior. If we don't learn, our behaviors will not change. And I'm saying this, if we want to see change in young people, if we want to see change in our families, we want to see change in our communities, we want to see change in this nation, then you and me need to change first. If we change, everything around us will change. But this change needs a lot of courage. This change needs a lot of hard work. This change needs higher aspiration. This needs us to this encourage each other. Again, religion is that process that inspires us, gives us hope for the better future. And my dear brother and sister, future is not waited for. Future is created. If we do what is right today, tomorrow everything will be smooth. But if we keep on carrying our yesterday, we don't want to let go. Things that happened long time ago. We are always talking about historical injustices. We are always talking about what our grandfathers did to each other. We are always talking about the wars that were carried long time ago, called jihad in Islamic history. We are talking about crusaders who invaded Jerusalem long time ago. And we are allowing those things to poison our hearts to an extent that we are so bitter. We are not happy today, and tomorrow we shall all perish, because we are not willing to let history go. You know, they say yesterday is a place of reference, is not a place of residence. It is past. In English, they say yesterday's history. It is gone, and tomorrow is mystery. Nobody knows about it. But today is a gift. That's why we call it a present tense. It's a present from the Almighty God. So if you use today very well, tomorrow becomes perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, religion is that thing that makes you grow holistically. You don't just grow chronologically. If you are 60 years old physically, we also need to be physical 60 years old mentally and socially and emotionally. So we need to use the religion to help ourselves grow to that level where we are better human beings, because we can either grow and become better than angels, or we can be so low, worse than animals. والتين وزيتون وطور السنين وهذا البلد العميم لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن التقويم ثم رددناهم أسفل. We created human beings to the best creation, but because of what they do every day, they end up becoming worse than animals. So you can either grow and become an angel and enjoy the peace, harmony, and the love of your creator, or you can bring yourself so low and become worse than an animal. So we need to grow holistically so that our spirituality will help us to see each other with a positive eye, feel with one another with a lot of love. Remember, when you stop looking at things, the way you look at them, the things you look at will also change. If you stop looking at me as a Muslim and then tag me something else, I look at you as a Christian and tag you something else, I look at you as a Hindu and tag you something else, believe me, there's no way we can be able to do. It's very important also to understand openness, okay, and unleashing those potentials that we have never been able to bring them to their full and enjoy the fulfillment of life. And then religion is also supposed to make us learn how to negotiate peaceful with one another. Ladies and gentlemen, if we get tired of discussing peaceful coexistence in our different platforms, if we get tired of sweating because we are discussing positive things to ensure there is peace, harmony, and unity in our society, believe me, we shall, shed blood profusely in the battlefield. It is important for us to engage each other. Sorry, I forgot to finish the 5 C's. The 5 C's, is it the 5 C's I was talking about? I said the positive C's are communication, creativity, collaboration, and being critical and maintaining consistency. And the negative ones are complaining, criticizing, condemning, compromising, and then contradicting. So let's make sure we live, we learn, we love, and then at the end of the day, we leave legacy. Thank you very much, and God bless us all.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation, Dr. Mujahid. That was an awesome insight on religious tolerance. And I'm seeing a few questions that have been raised here. I will wish for us to respond to some of these questions. Yeah. One of the questions raised by Maureen is we base religion on Hindu, Islam, and Christian. The question is atheism also a religion, or is it not a religion?
Religion is defined as a way of life. In Islam, when you say din, the Arabic word din is defined as a way of life. So if somebody's way of life is atheism, if somebody's way of life is adultery, that is the religion for that person. So it is still a religion to that person, because that person, that is the way of life. Religion is, I live like a Christian. So Christianity is your way of life. I live as a Muslim, Islam is my way of life. I live as a Hindu, Hindu is my way of life. So the way of life, the way you live, that is what really is your religion. Are we together?
View on atheism, is it religion also, or is it not?
As I have said, that is I personally define a religion as a way of life. And if somebody thinks his way of life is being an atheist, the person must have a reason why he's an atheist, and therefore that is his way of life. And in that case, it becomes very important for us to appreciate each other based on what their orientations are. Because if we debate on what is a religion, what is not a religion, that's where now we bring what we call the point of contradiction that will ultimately lead us to a very bad separation. So it's good for us to cover common understanding. And my common understanding here is religion is a way of life. It's a way of life. And whoever has defined a certain way of doing things as his way of life, then that is his religion. Just like the way I am a Muslim, somebody else is a Christian, another person is a Hindu. So an atheist is also an atheist.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mujahid, for that response. I will kindly request the other panelists to give us their viewpoints on atheism. Maybe Madam Hema Shah, what is your point of view when it comes to atheism?
I completely agree with Professor Mujahid that, yeah, it's a way of life. The way you live, whether it is implemented or not, that talks about you completely. If I'm a Hindu and if I live in a different manner, it will not show like a Hindu, then it is a different concept. Are you getting, are we getting clear that how is it?
Yes, we are clear on that. His Majesty King Mwachiro, what is your point of view in terms of atheism? And maybe I'll try to find out where he is. The next question is there a way religious leaders can be held accountable for their actions during campaign period. This is from Jerusha. Just to, there's another question raised on a that is similar to that one, where is what can we do as religious leaders to ensure that we do not allow political leaders to use religion as a way of them to get elections, or to use religious platforms for them to campaign for their political ambitions. Hema Shah, could you kindly respond to that, please?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that you don't have to reject anyone, because they are also a part, politicians are also a part of society. And while improving on them, you can improve a lot of things very easily. So, what we have to do, we don't have to, reject them, because they are also coming from the same society. They are influenced by the same society. So when you are working on it, you have to welcome them, and you also have to put your efforts and try and convince them to be peaceful while elections, and how to make things better in its own manner. That's what I wanted to reply. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hema Shah. His Majesty King Mwashiro, are you with us? Okay, I'm seeing, yes, we can hear you. What is your point of view on what can we do as religious leaders or community leaders to ensure that we do not provide platforms for political leaders to misuse them and create tension or intolerance among our community members?
Actually, one point I want to put. I used to go to Libya with one elder from Nyan, and he coordinated his people, because there was always fighting. He coordinated all tribes living in South Nyanza and agreed that even the lesser people there should be given a seat. That's why you can see this ODM Somali guy, I'm forgetting his name. He is a member of parliament, while there are only 20 in that southern Nyanza. I would like the religious leaders, all of them, as I've said, to coordinate to come together with the tribal leaders, that is the community leaders, to share seats in Mombasa, even Hindus to be given a seat. There are few, but if we do the way Luo Nyanza is doing, there's a Hindu who is a leader. You go to Eldoret, there's a Hindu who is a member of parliament. Last time I went to Isiolo through Meru. Meru, they have a Hindu who is a member of parliament. We should actually come together through the religious leaders and all other leaders. The religious leaders have a unit of Muslims and Christians. They call it interfaith. They should come with that interfaith to unite all communities, all religions, and involve all cultural leaders and agree on a unity of purpose, so that we can even
we've lost you, King Mwachiro, but I'm seeing a hand by Leila Tinga. Leila Tinga, do you have any questions that you would like to raise, please? Leila Tinga? Okay, I think maybe she doesn't have that question anymore. We'll go through the other questions that have been raised. We have
Hello.
oh,
Hello. I have a question.
yes, Leila, please. Okay, Leila.
Okay. I want to ask you a question. Why don't you, before election, why don't you call all the experience and then we do awareness with them? Because sincerely, when I think about election, I just see blood and our kids will be using by those people. Why don't we do, first of all, awareness with them, and then we go ahead with the election, please. Mr. Mujahid.
Yeah, inshallah. 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 Thank you very
Because
much.
you know,
Yeah, it's very important. It's very important actually. And that's why I wanted to tell Ms. Said, it is very important for us to kind of first educate the political leaders and political leadership and political aspirants so that they can be empowered in terms of understanding the community and understanding what is happening around them. And then we need to give them direction, because if they don't take the right direction, they will always lead us to a wrong section. So as religious leaders, we need to provide direction, because we are, you know, we are the shepherds. We are the ones who are supposed to kind of guide the community. And therefore, if we take our time to actually provide direction to these political leaders so that they will not lead us to a wrong section, and then give them understanding us, them understanding us and us understanding them, so that they don't misuse our young people or any one of us for their own personal interest. It's also important for them to appreciate how bad it is when violence are encouraged in the society, and then term them in terms of their language, in terms of their actions, and in terms of their sphere of influence. And again, engage them regularly. I said 7 steps are very important. The first step is identifying where the problem is, very key. Who is really to blame when there is violence during election, and identifying those who are really the masterminds of those violence. And then carry out that advocacy so that everybody knows the implication in terms of the law. This is a nation and it has its own laws, and therefore educating people on understanding the implication of entertaining and encouraging and engaging in violence. Again, at the same time, it's very important even to because it is a willing buyer, a willing seller approach in terms of political leaders, spreading, violent narratives, and young people accepting those narratives. So both sides need to be capacity built. Both sides need to be empowered so that they don't accept violence to reign in their thoughts. And again, at the same time, we need also to win people through good service. And this is what they call reciprocity, by always bringing the youth closer to us as religious leaders, then allowing them to go closer to political leaders for them to be used. And then at the same time, it also becomes very important for us to do that work of our religious leaders. That means calling people to the fear of the Lord. Because if everybody fears God, then it becomes very difficult, whether a political leader, whether a youth, whether a woman, the moment there is that spirit of knowing I am accountable, my actions are accountable. One day I will be held responsible. One day I will leave this world. One day. Now, being conscious, having religious, sensitivity within you, definitely, even as a political leader, you will not mislead people to get into violence. So sensitization and capacity building and awareness creation, those are very key. As religious leaders, we really need to do that with the political class.
Thank you, Dr. Mujahid. It seems there's a lot that needs to be done as we head to 2022. I'm seeing a couple of hands. I'm going to be requesting Eric. I'm going to name those that are supposed to have raised their hand. As kindly raise your questions as the way I'm going to call out your names so that we can move faster. We have Eric Ngoja. Then next will be Ingrid Ondiek, and then followed by Stewart Oyoyo, and then there is Dorcas Felicia, and then there's Maron, and then there's Ahmed Famau. Kindly do raise your questions as the way I have named the list. Thank you.
Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
You hear me?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mesaid and Haki Africa for convening this important conversation at a time when we are nearing the general election next year. I think this is a platform that we as CSOs, community leaders and the religious leaders should continue meeting and discussing issues of religious tolerance. I think my question will be, in order to advance, the agenda of peace building in the country and also promoting religious tolerance, I think the role of religious leaders need to be very clear. Because as we speak right now, as a country, we are witnessing so many cases of corruption being, seen at the television in each and every county. Graft cases are all over, from Kimwarer to, the Kemsa scandal and many other scandals. We are seeing religious leaders today endorsing, some, aspirants, political kingpins at the national level and also at the county level. We are seeing religious leaders who are supposed to be at the forefront in, being neutral, taking sides. We are seeing religious leaders, taking part in political discourse in different parts of the country. And these are the leaders that we are expecting them to be at the forefront in promoting religious tolerance, in bringing, the country together, in condemning corruption and, the irrespect and the vices which are happening in different parts of the country. I think gone are the days when we could see the late Ndingi Mwana Wanzeki coming on national TV and saying enough is enough. As a country, this is the way to go. Mine is to ask the religious leaders, where did we go wrong as a country? Why are our leaders taking sides at this point in time? Why are our religious leaders being silent in very critical issues which are supposed to be talking about? There are several the issues like the BBI report, the different reports, the Ndungu report and many other reports which are supposed to be implemented by our government. Why are these people silent? And when the religious leaders are united, have a unit of purpose and call this country into order and demand for action to be taken, we know that the action will be taken. This is the time religious leaders need to be vocal, need to be united, and to condemn any graft that is happening in different countries. But we are losing focus as religious leaders. I think I'm calling for the unit of purpose, for religious leaders to come together and, take this country to the right direction. Because if we leave this country to the politicians are taking this country to the dogs. The rule of law is not followed at all. There is need for us as leaders, the religious leaders, to call the political leaders to follow the rule of law and respect
We've
humanity.
lost Eric Ngoja. Is it possible for Ingrid Sondiek, please take up could we hear what you have as your question, please? We can't hear you, Ingrid. Ingrid Sondiek?
Kindly, I want to finish up my question. If you could allow me, Mesa. If you could allow me, Mesa. Do you hear me, Mesa?
Yes.
Do you hear me, Mesa?
Yes, Eric. Eric?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead. We all can hear you.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to conclude my question by saying, actually, what is the role? Mujahidi, Hema Shah, and Majesty King Mwachiro. What is the role of religious leaders? Because we are seeing very little in bringing the country together, in actually having the unit of purpose in terms of giving focus to this country, in terms of, you know, looking at how this country is being managed and giving the right direction. The country is losing direction. As we speak right now, you know, the president, the deputy, and many other national leaders are taking this country to the wrong direction. As religious leaders, what is our role? Should we continue keeping quiet? Should we continue taking sides as religious leaders? Should we continue, you know, endorsing the political leader? I think this is wrong. We need to come out boldly as religious leaders and say enough is enough, and condemning the graft which is happening, and, you know, take this country to the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. We understand your concern, but religious leader means the one who is concentrating on religion and the thoughts of religion, isn't it? We are not politicians, actually. Okay, they can take help from us, even in the, I think even in this policy making, because we are aware of what is going on. Even I think most of the religious leaders, they are aware of what's going on the ground. What are the problems, isn't it? And what can cure it, isn't it? So we can do that. We can put it to the government like that, but it is not our job to be a politician, because then it will be a totally different thing what we are doing, you know. Actually, but we can advise them. There should be some lobbying working. We can advise them what to go about it. If you are talking about BBI, then there was a meeting last year in Mombasa. There was a meeting, and I completely refuted it, and I said that, yeah, it cannot work like that, because it is completely unconstitutional to have 78 amendments at one go. And you can see the results, you know. Even other counties also have felt in that manner. So we are influencing in one or the other way, but it is not, our job is different and their job is different. That is what I want to convey you. And but together we can make a lot of impact on them. That's true. Thank you.
Thank you, Hema. Ingrid Ondiek, kindly raise your question, please. I think we're facing challenges when it comes to hearing the questions that are being raised. I'm kindly requesting that we put those in the questions on the chat box or the question and answer area box. That way we will be able to answer them and follow all the questions that are being raised. There's one that has been raised by Victor right now. Victor is asking, can these religious leaders stop imposing political leaders for us? Because it seems that, yes?
Okay. Yes, I think he's right. And and that can only happen if we kind of understand that we as religious leaders leaders, we are supposed to do things pertaining to the religious spirit instead of getting directly involved in politics. What we need to do is just, as Emma said, that is to influence the politicians so that they can be great leaders, but not to impose leaders onto others. But even if they're imposed by religious leaders, the people have the choice. They're the ones who go for election. They can decide who they want as a leader. So that's really not an issue we should worry about. The only thing is that as religious leaders, we should remain religious leaders. If we combine being a religious leader and at the same time we want to be very active political activist, then that can really be a problem.
Thank you, Dr. Mujahid, for that. The other question that is being raised here is Ingrid can raise her question. Ingrid, please.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thanks. My question is, looking at the country right now, there is too much tension, which is brought about by economical and political status of the country. Now, my question is to the religious leaders: what are you doing to engage the youth or the entire community to reduce the tension? Back to you, Mesa.
Thank you. I think the question is posed to all the religious leaders. Hema Shah, kindly take it up.
Okay. As a religious leader, we have a woman desk here in Mombasa under some NGO called CICC, and we were working on the mental health for the people who have suffered because of this coronavirus and everything, economical, financial, and like mental health issues. And there were certain problems for, immoral kind of activity, the way brother had made pregnant to his own sister and everything. So we were working on it recently, and that is how we are trying to make an impact and trying to clear whatever we can do on from our part. But we are, I think we need to be more powerful in a way where we can teach the people, or we can make people more aware about whatever is happening. We are talking about what we have done when economy is gone so bad, then I will say that we have, given out a lot of food stuff and everything to the people who were really suffering. But at the end, we have to understand somewhere that you can't keep on donating things, and you can't. You have to give them some kind of skill which will upgrade them to live their life. You don't have to give them bread. You have to teach them how to fetch the bread. That is now where we are working on. Thank you very much. I think this is enough for you to understand or where we have reached. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Hema Shah. Now I'm kindly requesting Stewart Oyo to raise his question.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. My question, I don't want to appear like I'm a religious bias or what, but why is it that in areas that mostly Muslim populated is where by now when it reaches time for elections, we have got a lot of issues on religion, and because I think this is just in the entire world, but Kenya here in Mombasa mostly, and even in Garissa. And but you'll not see this amongst the Indians. During elections, you'll not hear Indians talk about the religion and all that, even in India there. But now when you come to areas where we have got many Muslim populated, for example, in Mombasa, in Kenya, in Mombasa, you realize that the issue of religion comes in so much and they propagate it so much that to an extent now it appears it's war. And it affects the politics. So my question to Mujahid, what is it that I don't know to discredit Islam, but what is it that the kind of teaching that is being taught in a way that when they see an outsider, they feel so much threatened? Because even today in Mombasa, when you want to vie for governor, they'll tell you, go back home. Someone like me, I was born and raised in Mombasa. My grandparents worked here worked in KPA. My parents worked here. I'm born here, and I think I'm going to work here, and everything will be in Mombasa. But now when it comes to time you want to seek elective positions, governor, senator, blah, blah, they tell you, go back home, go back to Nairobi, Kisumu, go back to Nyeri. Why is it that in Muslim areas are the ones that have got a lot of politics when it comes to religion, and then they take the religion shapes? And you can also notice that in Mombasa, you'll realize Indians don't even take part in politics as such. You'll not see them endorsing people, you'll not see them doing any sort of politics openly. But now when it comes to Christians and Muslims, that starts. So maybe Mujahid, you will help us understand. Is it that we are doing something that the Muslims don't like, or is it that we are taking up the opportunities that they want, or is it that at the madrasas there are some teachings that do not allow them to mingle freely with us Christians? Yeah, and then the second question is on in terms of religious leaders and taking part in politics. I think it is very normal. In Christian, we saw great leaders taking part in politics. We saw Moses took part in politics, King David, King Solomon. But again, the problem is when you come out and to spread the venom to your congregants, that's where now we get the problem. And I think both the religions, Christians and Muslim, now that we have people who are representing in the council, the Muslim council and the Christian council, let us try and sit down with the Indians, try and emulate. I think they're the only religion that do not have this sort of chaos in terms of politics and the religion. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Richard. Stewart. I think Dr. Mujahid can respond to that as we move to the next question.
Been writing on violence, extremism in this country, and believe me, the areas that are dominated by political extremism and violence are not Muslim predominantly area. Maybe if you talk about ideological violence, then that we could talk about Mombasa, Garissa, Mandera, and Wajir. But when it comes to political radicalism in this country, it is mainly Nyanza and Western and other parts. Really, their basic tenets are built on peaceful coexistence. And I want to advise my brother if you want to understand and read religion, if you want to understand Islam, don't ask a Muslim, go and read the Quran. If you want to understand Christianity, don't ask Christians, go and read the Bible. Because what Muslims do does not reflect what Islam teaches, because the term Islam itself means peace. We Muslims, when we meet every time, we tell each other, Assalamu alaikum, may peace be upon you. So sometimes the issues that are actually generating violence have nothing to do with religion, leave alone political extremism. Even ideological extremism now with radicalization and our young people crossing over to go to Al-Shabaab and go to ISIS. If you go deep into analysis, you will discover it has nothing to do with Islam. These are socio-economic, political issues that have historical connection, that people are really struggling to make sure they get their survival. So let us be open in terms of understanding that every religion preaches peace. There is no religion that preaches violence. The people or the followers of those religions, if they're involved in violence, it is those followers. It is not that religion. So there is nothing being taught in the madrasa that promotes violence. There is nothing to do with Islam that promotes violence. It is all based on individuals who, because of their own reasons, feeling that they are threatened, and therefore sometimes they may use religion as an excuse, use religion as a tool, use religion as a vessel that will actually help them drive their agenda to where they want it to go. But believe me, I want to advise my son who raised that question to read about Islam, not to look at the Mombasa Muslims and then say maybe Islam has an issue, but go and read religion. That's the way I do. I read a lot of Christian literature to understand Christianity. I don't ask Christians what Christianity is all about. I read, and then if I have a question from what I have read, then I will seek clarification. And then now I'm telling you, I have a better and a more clear understanding of Christianity than ever before. So it's very important. And then again, look at, I'm telling, with all due respect to my sister Ayama, look at the political violence, the political, problem that there in India during election. Then we will appreciate it's not just about Muslim and Christians. Even Indians have a huge challenge when it comes to general election. Hindus and Muslims and whatever. Sikhs. If we go into that topic, it's very, very broad. But I will seriously advise you not to understand religion through its followers, understand religion through its teachings.
Thank you, Dr. Mujahid, for that enlightening response, because it is indeed, you cannot learn Islam through a Muslim, neither can you learn it through the actions of a Muslim, but you can only learn about it through the Quran itself. Because no man is perfect, but the book itself is perfect.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Now I'm kindly requesting Isabella Kidede to quickly raise her question, as we only have about 5 minutes to the end of the discussion. Unfortunately, there are so many hands that have been raised. Isabella Kidede, could you kindly ask your question, please?
Sorry, I had spoken a lot and I was muted. Anyways, I was saying I want to commend these discussions, and maybe moving forward, these discussions should be continuous, not just to focus on religious tolerance during elections, because it is not, the intolerance does not occur only when there's elections. These things happen. We have seen a lot of intolerance in the northeastern and other regions. We have seen, either Christians being victimized or Muslims being victimized despite elections. So I would urge, Haki Africa to have these discussions going on, even before and after elections. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. The reason as to why we are having this discussion today is because today is the International Day of Freedom of Religious or Beliefs, which is normally marked on 18th June every year. That's why we convened this webinar to just discuss on what the role of the religious leaders is in terms of forging religious tolerance as we head to the 2022 elections. Thank you for that. Next is Maron Kioko. Kindly raise your question, please.
Hello. Can you everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, Maron, we can hear you.
Okay, my name is Maron Kioko from Uhaki Nausawa. Okay, first of all, I'd like to condemn or to say that the religious leaders or the religious part of us is showing us a very different, is giving us a very different or a bad approach towards this general election, because have you ever seen around the churches and let's say the mosque, they invite these politicians to talk bad politics, which influences the youths in the church, which influences the congregants in the church or in the mosque. So these leaders don't even limit what should be spoken, or don't limit what should be said or what should be done. So I think we have a long way to go, because when the general election comes, you find these leaders approach the churches a lot, and without controlling or without procedure set aside by you guys, I think things will get out of hand. I think you should provide a good framework whereby these religious leaders should not allow these kind of people to just go there in church and talk nonsense and abuse each other, talk bad things, which will influence our youths and congregants as a whole. So I think Muhijir and Hema, you should get a platform whereby these leaders are educated, are given a framework whereby they should not allow these guys, because these guys are the major cause of violence in this country. The leaders, because the way they
Thank
speak.
you, Maron. Just to cut you short, I think we got the point that you're trying to raise, that we should consider creating platforms that are going to be more engaging for the youth and all the community members, to ensure that we are able to continue holding these forums and not just hold them amongst ourselves, but also include the community members that are mostly affected by the violence that comes with the elections. Thank you for that.
That's true. That's true.
There's a question that has been raised in regards to what next after this engagement. It is a good way that we are commemorating this day this way, but what next? Now, to answer the what next is that we are not stopping here. We will go to the ground and hold forums, continue with our forums, and ensure that we are able to create means or platforms that will enable us to engage and ensure that we do not have violence, or we are not, our youth and other members are not used negatively when it comes to the campaigns that are taking place right now. We will also continue holding online platforms online engagements, to ensure that we continue these engagements and we do not disengage after this one engagement. The other person that had a question is Hamisi Thuva. Kindly raise your question as quick as possible so that we can come to the end of the discussion, as we are running out of time. Today being Juma, I'm sure Dr. Mujahid will want, and some of us will want to go to the mosque. Hamisi Thuva, please raise your question.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Hamisi, we can hear you. Yes, we can hear you, Hamisi.
Thank you. Thank you very much. My name is Hamisi Thuva. The reason why politicians come to religious institutions and religious leaders is that we have people in those institutions, and the religious leaders have a command or a voice to those people. That's why politicians will run to churches, mosques, temples, because they know they are people and they after votes. But my question is, do we have Do we have a platform whereby these religious leaders can set their rules that when a politician comes to a mosque or a church or a temple, this is how he should behave? Because without having guidelines on how to deal with these politicians, every now and then we shall have the problems of politicians inciting the community and all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Hamisi, for that. Hema Shah, would you like to respond to that, please, as we move to the others? Once Hema Shah is done responding, I'm kindly requesting His Majesty Mwachiro to respond, and then Dr. Mujahid, please. As you're responding, I'm also kindly requesting that we give our concluding remarks also, so that we can come to an end of this session. Thank you. Hema Shah, please take the stage.
Okay, you know, like listening all this thing is going in my head for a very long time. That whoever wants to be in parliament, whoever is elected, they should have some kind of training, like moral training kind of stuff, you know, which can be led by us, and some like, you know, like in other countries, they have, before you go to university, they have this religious training stuff. Like if you go to Indonesia, if you go to Japan, if you go, then there are this kind of stuff that 1 year or 6 months you have to learn, so you can upgrade yourself on the level of humanity, on the level of honesty, on the level of, you know, the basic virtues, what you need to be a human, you know. So this thing is going in my head for a very long time, but I don't know how can it be, you know, practical. But second thing, yes, as a religious leaders, to coming to the practical world now, as a religious leaders, yes, we can influence the politicians, whoever comes to us. We can keep on counseling them on the problems and how to go about the, you know, growth of the nation, and how to upgrade our nation, and economically, while empowering, while, you know, removing all the problems and the negativity we have. We can keep on counseling. But the thing is, sir, once they are elected, you will not see them back. You only see them when the elections are there. Actually, when they are looking for the block of people, they will come and visit religious leaders. Otherwise, it's hard for them to go and get some advice from religious leaders. I think there should be some kind of, what can I say, some kind of structure where the intellect religious leaders, not all religious leaders who are just in that and who don't understand, who are just with their own spiritual development. I'm talking about the people who are connected with it, should have some kind of advisory board, which they can, where they can influence the politicians. That's what I feel. Thank you.
Thank you. His Majesty, kindly, could we hear what you think about the question raised by Hamisi, and your closing remarks, please?
We'll always welcome them, and after they leave, they tell their congregation, we have to follow this man because he's good, he's not selfish, because he's been given money. But after that, it is as my colleague has said, when they win the election, they'll never come to your church again. So it is up to the religious leaders to stop worshiping money and worship God. They should come together, all of them, to make sure they don't worship money, but they worship God and worship the truth. Otherwise, this world is going to be led by hypocrisy because of what we are seeing. Now, in 2022, many politicians will go to churches and they will be blessed by the pastors. So same people fighting for the same seat, If they go there, the pastors will bless everybody. And you know, blessings are for one person. But this should be coordinated by the interfaith. The interfaith should come together and work together and make sure they discipline these people who are destroying this country, called the pastors and imams. That is my point.
Thank you, Majesty King Mwachiro. Dr. Mujahid, your response to Hamisi Thuva's
Hello. Okay, thank you very much. Are you people with me? Can everybody hear me? My Saidi, are you with me?
Yes, we are with you, and we can hear.
Thank you.
Yes, I am.
I want to say, let's adapt an acronym I call CASH. And what I mean by CASH is, K, let's widen the scope of knowledge in terms of understanding ourselves and understanding other people, and also understanding politicians, so that the politician can also widen their scope of information to understand what their communities really need. So knowledge, as they say, it's always power. If you refuse to drink from the fountain of knowledge, you die of thirst in the desert of ignorance. Therefore, it is important for all of us to understand that if we want to be able to have peace and peaceful coexistence, our scope of knowledge, our scope of information, and our understanding must be broader. Let us not just confine in understanding our doctrines only. Again, altitude. If you are negative about certain group of people, you are negative about a certain religion, it becomes very difficult for you together with people around us. We become more positive on who we are engaging with. The negativity will overtake us, and therefore that will stop us from living as humanity. Your attitude, always take your altitude. Again, it's also very important for us to embrace the right skills of dialogue, skills of negotiation, skills of critical thinking, skills of reflective thinking, analytical skills, so that whatever we read, whatever we hear, able to analyze it effectively, efficiently, and ultimately it will empower us to be better people. H, we need always to remember our habits. When we grow up, we make our habits. But when we are grown up, unless change that we have, it becomes very difficult for you to expect
Okay, I think we've had a very great engagement, and we've had what we need to do as we move towards the 2022 elections, what needs to be done. There's a lot that needs to be done, and we need to move forward as a citizen to ensure that we are able to cultivate peace within ourselves, and let not anyone come and divide us and use our youth or anybody else to propagate their own negative agendas. I'll take this opportunity to thank all of you, all the panelists for attending. I'll take on behalf of Reverend Richard Otieno, I'd like to offer his apologies. He stepped out. He had a requiem mass to attend. He couldn't be with us to the end of this discussion. The other part that I would like to thank is all the participants for raising all the questions that have really made this, contributed to making this discussion very educative. And Dr. Mujahid, His Majesty King Mwachiro, Hemasha, I'm really grateful for you to creating an opportunity to come and enlighten us on what needs to be done for us to move forward as a citizen. Thank you so much for all for attending. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yuko vizuri.
Asante, asante, asante.